indications suggest both the family and care referendums will be comprehensively defeated. Counting is continuing and the final results have yet to be announced. However, Government Minister Eamon Ryan accepted it looked as though both questions would be defeated. No campaigners have said the government had failed to explain the proposed amendments to the people.
It didn't take long. Once the boxes were open, a definitive trend emerged. The electorate was voting no.
These amendments were recognised by the people for what they were. They were hollow marketing husks of amendments. There was actually no net benefits to people in terms of these, and in actual fact, there was a reduction of rights.
Opposition campaigners said the government sowed confusion rather than gave clarity on what it was proposing.
Certainly there was confusion, and all of the blame for the confusion must lie with the government. I mean, for instance, the Electoral Commission was rushed into preparing their documentation. I didn't think much of their leaflet, to be honest with you, because most people who read it at the end of it still didn't have a clue.
Less than 3 hours after the counting had begun, a coalition leader was already accepting defeat.
We do own the wording, and obviously the case we presented didn't win, and you reflect that and make sure that in everything we do, we try and reflect the vote of the people in terms of how we invest in care in our country.
Opposition parties which backed the referendums pointed the finger of blame at the coalition parties.
So I think the government will need to look now at why they didn't go out more assertively to sell that wording. We were campaigning because we did see the proposed wording as better than what's currently in the Constitution, but there was a very lacklustre government campaign, and I think that's unfortunate.
On the care referendum, no campaigner said what had been posed ran completely contrary to the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disability.
So if that had been passed, it would have brought us into international disrepute. And also, it was so offensive to disabled citizens. You know, 5 political parties, NGOs that purport to represent the interests of disabled people promoting and endorsing this wording. I think we're going to have a very serious conversation in Ireland about ableism.
The final result isn't in, but the outcome is clear, a resounding defeat for the government's propositions. Paul Cunningham, RT News.
Well, there was a myriad of reasons why people voted as they did, and we spoke to some as they left the polling stations last night.
I voted no on both. I just don't think it was very clear on exactly why we're voting for this, and also I think you're running into strange territory, taking the mother out of the Constitution and all that, so there's a lot of different reasons, but it just wasn't sitting with me.
I voted no on both counts because I don't think the wording is safe enough. I don't think it's good enough, to be honest.
I voted yes for the first part of it. I'd be very strong about family, you know, that everybody would have the same rights. And then I suppose the second part of it, I've been speaking to a lot of carers, and you know, they are very strong about no. So I suppose I'm not a carer myself, but you wouldn't know in the future if you would be or not. So I went with the no vote.
I voted yes. Change in Ireland, different times, and reflecting that.
I voted yes and yes on both, but very complicated. There was a lot of controversy with the first one, especially with the family itself. How far does it extend?
I definitely think, even talking to people in work and talking to other women and other men, I definitely think it's complicated, it's not clear cut, and I think there's a lot of confusion out there. That'd be my opinion.
Well, let's get more on all of this from Mary Regan of our political staff, who joins us now from Dublin Castle, where the final result will be announced there later today. Mary, not a good day for the government, given these indications.
Yes, Caitlin, 10 years ago, Enda Kenny stood in this very courtyard saying his government had received a wallop after the rejection of the Shannon referendum. Today, this feels like a much harder hit because the rejection of these two propositions is by a far greater margin than either side had anticipated, really amounting to something more of a Dublin Castle clobber for the coalition. And the blame game is, unsurprisingly, already underway. Opposition parties who had rode in behind the government since it announced these referendums back in December, advocating yes votes, saying the government really ran lacklustre campaigns and have questions to answer as to why they came up with the wording that they did, which seemed unsatisfactory. Aim to leader Peadar Tóibín, his party the only one to advocate no votes, saying the government has questions to answer from a different perspective. He's calling for the government to make a statement or answer questions on the advice of the Attorney General, which had been leaked, and how that was presented, as he put it. From the government's perspective, they are also soul searching, some believing this is a return of a more conservative voting.
Back where it belongs, back where it belongs.
Simply something we can put down to ideology, that this really is a question of how the referendum was handled, when the question being put to the people wasn't exactly clear. How could the answer be delivered as they wanted it, as some in government see it?
So, Mary, how can we expect events to unfold then this afternoon?
Yeah, well, the atmosphere is pretty low-key here in Dublin Castle. There could be a result in the first declaration for the family amendment. That could be announced as early as 3:30 or 4 o'clock this evening. After that, they will start processing all the counts for the care referendum, with the results there expected sometime in the evening. But the discussion around what happened here is far from over.
Okay, Mary Regan at Dublin Castle, thank you. Well, let's get a picture now from our correspondents around the country. Let's go first to Pascal Sheehy in Cork. What's the picture in Munster, Pascal?
Very easy to summarise what's happening across the 11 constituencies in the 6 counties of Munster. We have reporters in each of those 11 constituencies, and none of them are coming back to us saying that there will be a majority yes vote in any of their constituencies in either referendum. So very clearly the indications at this stage are for a double no vote in the 2 referenda across Munster. And that really is it at the end of the day. We're expecting results constituency-wide in the family referendum to come to us at around 2 o'clock.
Okay, Eileen Magner is over in Galway. What's the picture from the Connacht and Ulster regions like?
Pretty much the same across the 7 constituencies. We're here where they're counting Galway.
Resounding no.
Limited tallies, but
no.
Counting towards a strong no vote, possibly by a margin of 3-1. Galway East in Headford, a partial tally was carried out there when they sorted the votes. Again, a strong no vote. In some cases, boxes were indicating 70% plus were voting no in both referenda. Galway Roscommon, or Roscommon Galway rather, a snapshot there. There's no tallies, again indicating a strong no. Cavan Monaghan, unofficial tallies, again saying no. One box in Cavan Town was going 75 to 80% no in both. Mayo,
well done to everybody who campaigned for no.
Early tallies again.
Well done.
No.
Job well done.
No official tally there.
We beat the government.
Observers again watching what's going on, saying it's going to be a resounding no, and it's the same story in the.
Let this be a message to the government
a resounding no
of the people's distaste and distrust in their legislation.
Excluding Dublin. What's the latest there, Gail?
They must now be reform in the Irish government.
Seems to be holding true here in the Leinster region outside Dublin, that both referendums.
And what was
very little public
promised in the Constitution afforded till women and carers.
Convention Centre, the last few boxes for Carla Kilkenny are being sorted, with staff taking a break shortly. Tally people here left mid-morning after loose tallies indicated a 70-30 split in favour of no for both referendums. One box in Kilkenny with a 90% no. In Louth, the initial indications are that turnout was as high as 50%, with more than 3/4 of boxes sorted. Their tallies suggest both referendums will be defeated 70-30. Kildare North and South loose tallies indicate the family amendment is likely to be defeated by at least 2-1, and the care amendment will be defeated by 3-1. Laois Offaly early indications suggest a no-no. There's no longer a tally system in place there. And Longford Westmeath unofficial tally suggests the result of the family referendum will result in a resounding no-no vote. So we'll be expecting official turnout figures later, with counting to begin across the region after lunch.
Okay, Brian O'Donovan, finally in the RDS, what's the picture like in Dublin?
Well, right now, Kate, the counting staff have taken a break. No votes have actually been counted yet. Counting is due to get underway in the next few minutes, and it's expected to wrap up here at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So what we have so far is just sorting of votes, but the tallies based on those sorting echoing very much that picture that we're seeing around the country. Interesting, I suppose, maybe to take a little look at the constituencies of some of the big names in politics, some of the party leaders. If you look at Dublin West, Leo Varadkar's constituency, there's only 2 tally men there, so no exact figures, but they're certainly saying it's leaning in the direction of no for both referendums there. Also, if you look at Dublin Central, the constituency of Mary Lou MacDonald, strong no for care. Family a little bit closer there. Glasnevin, for example, a 60% no on the care vote. One box in Cabra had an 85% no on the care vote. Dublin Bay South, the constituencies of Ivanabacic and Eamon Ryan, a lot closer there, 50-50 on the family and 56% no for care. But as I say, these are just based on tallies. So the picture, I think, from the government's perspective, campaigning for the yes would have been, look, in the more affluent areas, would have liked to have seen a stronger yes. Perhaps in some of those more working class areas, they would have been expecting that stronger no. But that stronger yes didn't come where they needed it to come. And a lot of disappointment and a lot of finger pointing from the politicians that have been gathering here throughout the morning as to what went wrong in terms of the yes camp in this referendum campaign.
Okay, Brian O'Donovan at the RDS in Dublin.
They're all stupid, that's why.
In Kilkenny, Eileen Magner in Galway and Pascal Sheehy in Cork. Thank you all. To other news now. The first ship carrying humanitarian